I'm power. Like, I believe in affirmations. So a lot of the music that I make, I feel like affirms the community, or it tells about my own reality and the things that I've gone through within the community.
Right.
So, like when you think about like, if you ever heard of like a writer, his name is James Baldwin, or if you ever heard of like Billie Holiday, or if any of these great artists that were in the lineage of Black music, they were responsible for putting out a message during their time.
Right.
And if you are trying to be a part of a rich heritage and a rich lineage, then you tap into the same energy that they tapped into.
Yeah.
And you convey those messages that are happening in your reality, even though some people may not like it.
Hi, welcome to Life is Art, Montbello podcast. I am SB and we're here with...
What's good, y'all? Bill 7. Nice to meet you.
So we are here to interview 7 today. And we're just going to ask him a few questions about his career. So I hear that you're an artist.
I am.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to start off. Where'd you grow up?
So I originally came from Las Vegas. Moved a lot of different places. I lived in Oakland, California. That's where a lot of my family lives. Also lived in the East Coast for a little bit, and then landed here in Colorado probably around 16 or 17. Yeah.
So what was growing up like?
Growing up during that time, during the 90s, it was a lot of, hip hop birthing out during that time.
Yeah.
As far as like the transition and the new, I guess, style that was happening during the 90s.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, engaging, it was gangs around. All those different things were happening in Las Vegas, where I was from at that point.
Yeah.
It was highly influenced by LA. So we saw a lot of those things.
So what was like growing up, like your influenced artists, maybe like people you listen to a lot, or just genuinely was like jamming out to at your, younger days, or maybe high school, like?
Yeah, sure. Some of the music that was like influenced by when I was coming into starting to make music would have been like Outkast, would have been a heavy influence on me during that time. Who else was somebody I was really listening to? I was listening to probably a lot of Nas, Tribe Called Quest. But I was listening to older things, newer things, current things. So I was a little bit all over, but I had a lot of influences actually coming up when I was listening to music.
Right. So even in growing up, what encouraged you to do music? What kind of like set that mark for you? Like, this is what I want to do.
So yeah, I didn't initially get into music to become famous or try to get on.
Right.
I used to just make music. It was just something that I was into. Like when I was a kid, I was in a band, played instruments, played, clarinet, played saxophone, played keyboard, piano. And then hip hop was something that was always around, and I just was good at it. I was always engaged in it. So my faith, took me in a direction of doing music more professionally, because I was a Christian rapper for a little bit when I was in high school. And then outside of that, I just continually created and just continually did music.
So with the whole like Christian kind of rapping in high school, did you have like kind of a fear, like maybe I wouldn't be cool enough? Like, did you share that with people? Like, oh, this is what I do. Were you confident, or did you feel like this? Like, people are not gonna understand me. Like,
I was real confident when I was young. Like, it might have been, I was an athlete. I did a lot of other things too, but I was confident in the things that I believed in. And then from that, me and my friends were real independent in our hustle. So we used to make music, sell it, put on concerts. We had a TV show when we were in high school. When we were like 17, it was on public access. It was called Shots Out to the Hood.
Oh, wow.
And we would show like music videos of just artists from different places.
That's crazy.
So we just took it into our hands. And what I learned from that is that when you can control your own narrative, you become the dictator of what is cool and what isn't.
Right.
And if people don't follow you, then they're not supposed to. So I never got caught up in the cool aspect just because I felt I was always cool.
Right.
And then those who followed me, and those who didn't, I wasn't worried about them.
Mm.
So it wasn't a thing that I had to hide or anything, just because I felt like people just appreciated the art that I was doing,
Right.
and they gravitated towards it. So it was cool just because, yeah.
So even with like, new upcoming artists,
Sure.
what kind of like advice do you give, like with maybe art doubts or just advice in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give to a young artist is really know yourself. And I think the more that you know yourself, the more that you're authentic to your creation, and the more that you attract people who are part of your tribe.
Mm.
So I feel like what ends up happening in the industry nowadays, when we're talking about mainstream industry,
Mhm.
is that so many people are trying to emulate what success already looks like because they've seen success.
Right.
And I think when you start becoming yourself, you become a new thing
Right.
that somebody wasn't expecting. Like when you think about iconic artists, whether you're talking about like a Tupac, you're talking about like a Kendrick Lamar, you're talking about even like Alicia Keys, whoever, like they're the first of their kind to do what they did.
Right.
So the reason why they're iconic is because a lot of people emulate them, but they didn't emulate anybody else.
Right.
Right. So they were inspired by the things that made them who they are.
Right.
Whether it be, whether Kendrick Lamar was inspired by Tupac, or Jay-Z was inspired by like this cat named Cool G Rap. We all have our inspirations. It's important for us not to sound like our inspirations, but to be inspired by them for sure.
Yeah, I feel that for real. With this like new generation of like singers or rappers or artists, like what do you wish to see in music now? Like rather you see like the changes in music nowadays, like what do you wish to see?
So the way that I view art and the ways that I view artists is that we're messengers, right? So one of the things that we get caught up in is like the fame aspect of what we do as creators. But when you go into like indigenous art forms, like in Africa, like in Mali, in the country called Mali, they had like these prophets. They were called griots. And what a griot is a griot in Mali culture is like a musician, a poet, and they would hold the stories of their community or their village or whoever in their songs. So they would talk about the things they came from or things that happened previously. And actually that's how like the Quran and the Bible was written, right? It was written through poem. It was written through songs. It was written through heritage that was passed down before it was even written on paper. It was in song. So us as musicians and artists, that's our job, is to tell the reality of where we're at and what we're going through so that somebody else can relate to it. So it's an important task for us to like embrace and to do, So I think as creators, young artists or old artists, just be true to yourself and create from an authentic place, Yeah.
So as an artist, what is your goal to elevate? Like, you know where you're at right now. If there's anything you can do, what would you do to elevate?
I think one thing that I'm learning as an artist, as I get older, it's important to learn new skills, learn new trades, new parts of your craft, in order for you to be able to teach other people, but also for you to be of service to other people. So I feel like the more that you acquire skills, whether you're a singer who learns how to produce, or you're a singer producer who learns how to engineer, or you can do all those things and you learn how to market or shoot videos. Like whether you're doing it for yourself or other people, now you got a trade. And then you can always sustain whether your music is huge or not. You still know enough within your skill and your trade to be able to always have a job, always have a career, and do it on your own terms, And that's one thing I think a lot of young artists do. They give up their power. And they give up their power because they don't know better. And like, if you already got like 1,000 followers, then 1,000 true followers, you charge them $5 for a single or whatever you drop. If you just sold it directly to them, you got a good amount of money just right there.
Yeah.
You got 2,000 followers, then you still got a good amount of money. You got 5,000, you still, and then you just making it as you grow.
Yeah.
You don't need a label. We used to need labels because that's one of the only ways that you can get into record stores. But even then, I have music that's in record stores even to this day that I just went and negotiated deals with the record people at the record stores and be like, can I put my stuff in here on consignment?
That's
and
crazy.
Then we work out deals. So there's always been a way to get around the system or the game. It's just a matter of wanting to do the work and do the business.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to do that, but it's important to learn because if you don't, you get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've definitely like heard of that.
Yeah,
like,
it happens a lot.
The game of music is something else. Like,
and it doesn't change in Christian music and secular music. Like Christian record labels are the same as secular record labels. They're business, there's contracts, there's deals. So it don't matter whether it be faith-based or not. It's
everybody
business.
trying to make some bread. So honestly, in your music, how do you feel your music is influencing other people? Or how is this impacting your community?
I'm power. Like I believe in affirmations. So a lot of the music that I make, I feel like affirms the community or it tells about my own reality and the things that I've gone through within the community.
Right.
So, like when you think about like, if you ever heard of like a writer, his name is James Baldwin, or if you ever heard of like Billie Holiday, or if any of these great artists that were in the lineage of Black music, they were responsible for putting out a message during their time.
Right.
And if you are trying to be a part of a rich heritage and a rich lineage, then you tap into the same energy that they tapped into. Yeah. And you convey those messages that are happening in your reality, even though some people may not like it. It's just a part of the game. Yeah.
I feel that.
So I feel like that's kind of where my music kind of is. It's just a reality of where we at. And optimistic views of what we could be.
Yeah, I feel that. So I done forgot my question. I was listening so good. I done forgot my question.
Yeah, no.
I mean, honestly, like I'm inspired.
Yeah.
Like even joining this program, it showed me like, watching you guys, how important is it to you to inspire other people with just not even your music, like, because you do things like this, programs for kids, like, what made you want to do that?
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you want to do with your art? How do you want to impact people? Like, what's the reason you create?
Well, the reason why I create is because I feel like I can make a difference, because everybody in my age group, they talking about, things they honestly should not be talking about. Like, I get it, we're teenagers, but it's just like no one's talking about anything real no more.
Right.
Like, yeah, the beat is hard, but where's the lyrics at? What am I listening to? Is this even good for my heart and my soul? Like, music can really still take a toll on you. And I really feel that deeply. So when I listen to my music, I feel it in my heart. So when I write it down, I feel it in my heart. And I do it because, again, I want to send a message out. And that's why I agree so much, is because I want you to feel my music. I want you to, bump to it. And I want you to feel it here. I want you to feel it here. But I don't want you to just think I'm just saying anything just because it sounds good. I want you to feel what I'm saying. So that's why I do it, is because, again, like, I feel like most writers, anything you feel, you're putting it on a paper. That's what I do. So I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Or I have a thought, I'm writing it down because I can use that later. So, honestly, that's why I do it. So that people can understand what really is going on in our generation. Because our generation is so messed up in the head. It's insane. So I feel like even with my music, it can make a difference.
Yeah, that's why I do it.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I do it. To inspire people like you,
Yeah.
Like, just for context, like Bashenga, who's in the program, like I've known Bashenga since he was like 19.
Wow.
And like from that, I've seen him grow into his own person and become his own leader, you know, at almost 30, you know, with his own kids. And, you know, at one point I inspired him and now he inspires me, you know? So like if we're doing our job right as creators, we should always be inspiring one another to continuously create. And then, you know, I'm a believer of, you know, the Most High, you know, who is a creator.
Right.
So like if we're made in his image, then our job is to create.
Right.
Right. So like as long as we continuously create, then change happens. If you stop changing, if you stop creating, then change can't happen.
Right.
So our job as creators is to inspire the next generation to want to do the same things that we do and continually change the world through creation.
Yeah.
So that's why I do it. I think all of y'all are brilliant. And, you know, we all are going to make bad decisions sometimes, but bad decisions aren't bad. They're actually wisdom.
Right.
So through the mistake, you acquire wisdom so you don't repeat it.
Right.
If you're smart.
Right.
If you're smart. And some of us continuously make the same mistake until we learn from it and then we grow from it. But either way, it's wisdom.
Right.
So like we run from mistakes or we're told not to make mistakes. But sometimes it's inevitable because I was a part of your journey. Yeah. And I was a part of your growth. Yeah. So, you know, as long as we keep those things in focus, we'll continually change as society. And I feel like that's what we're doing with one another. We're growing each other. Like I'm learning from y'all in this program just as much as you're learning from, you know, what y'all are participating in. So it's full circle.
Yeah. And I really appreciate this program. Like I feel like had I never joined, I would have never knew about none of this.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was an opportunity, honestly, to elevate me. I was like, this is an open opportunity. I'm like, it just may look like any other program, but I'm like, no, this is an open gateway. Like, I felt like it was an opportunity. So I'm like, I think leaders like you in our community, because you don't see a lot of that nowadays. Like, people don't teach us the right anymore. Like, we just do it and we just learn. And I'm like, I'm trying to go the different way. I want to learn the right way from people who's already been there, done that.
Right.
So I'm like really appreciative.
Yeah.
And this is a good interview, honestly. Thank you for joining our podcast with Seven and, you know, the OG SB. And then y'all go check out my podcast so I can tell y'all what I was talking about being an artist. Y'all see my ring just fell. But thank you guys for joining and stay tuned for more episodes. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Voice of My Bella podcast.
You can find our episodes anywhere you listen to podcasts.
You can support our work by checking out our Instagram at Confluence Media Center.
Click the link tree in about to connect with us.
Be sure to rate, reviews, and follow us. Make sure you put them good. And make a donation.
This has been a Confluence Media production.